Hello and welcome to Politics here on France 24. It's worse than even the worst nightmare scenario. The election of the president of the opposition Conservative Party was supposed to be a straightforward affair. François Fillon, the former prime minister under Nicolas Sarkozy, was supposed to breeze to victory against his challenger, Jean-François Copé. However, the race turned out to be much closer than expected. But more importantly, it has morphed into an ugly, nasty, filthy fight between both camps, with each claiming victory and accusing the other of cheating. As a result, the battle could well end up before a judge, much to the chagrin of the conservative militant. To talk about the last crazy days at the UMP, I'm joined here today by Jean-Marc Gonin, senior writer with Le Figaro magazine, Philip Turle with Radio France Internationale, and Mathieu Douaret with the Ipsos Polling Institute. So this has clearly turned to be a very, very surprising development for the conservative parties. They have for years criticized the socialists for their divisions, for having so many problems to designate their leader. Well, it turned out that they also have serious problems.
The political drama engulfing France's conservative UMP party goes on. On Monday, Jean-François Copé, with 50.3% of the votes, beat former French Prime Minister François Fillon to win a tightly contested internal UMP party presidency vote. However, on Wednesday, Fillon's camp demanded a revote, as the Conservative Party didn't take into account 3 overseas French territories. With these votes included, it would appear to tip the balance back in the favour of Fillon. But on Wednesday night, he dismissed the information and stated that he wanted the founding president of the UMP to take over.
It's true the vote gives me a slight lead, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm not claiming victory. In fact, I renounce the UMP presidency. The UMP can't be led by a president who won by 6 votes or won by 98 votes. What I'm asking for is Alain Juppé, who is undeniably a respected person within the party, to form a team which will regroup all of the main people within our political family and propose a way to get out of this crisis.
However, Copé opposes a recount, claiming everything was done by the book.
Everything has been organized so there will be a resolution. The result will declare by the independent commission in front of all the party representatives.
The fact that New Caledonia, Wallis and Futuna and Mayotte were not counted in the initial vote has thrown the party in disarray. Alain Juppé has said he would take over as interim president, only on condition the two sides agreed to work together. A resolution which looks unlikely to happen in the near future.
Obviously, every new hour brings a new development. Both sides are not willing to back down. And on Thursday morning, Jean-François Copé made it very clear that he intends to stay as president of the UMP, and he vividly criticized François Fillon yet again. Let's take a listen.
François Fillon's behavior is that of a sore loser who gives lessons in morality without applying them to himself.
Jean-Marc Gonin, how would you describe what we just saw?
First lesson, you have here a mixture of cheating and incompetence that makes the Conservative Party look very bad. Second lesson, internal democracy is hard to learn, as one of the former leaders of the party said pointedly a few days ago. Before, we knew the winner 48 hours before the decision. Now, 48 hours after the election, we still don't know who won. So it means that procedure, that new procedure they implemented inside the party to have a so-called transparent election, a direct election, to pick the party leader, has been a terrible mess, and it means this party has a deficit in the procedures, in the democratic procedures, internal procedures, and that makes it look very bad, especially when they said they will want to copy the socialists for the next presidential election, choosing their candidate through primaries.
Philip Turle, one thing both camps can agree on, it was a very close race. Over 175,000 militants went to vote. Only militants voted. And they are basically neck and neck, and they're fighting over a few dozen votes. Jean-François Copé was proclaimed the winner with 98 votes ahead of François Fillon. François Fillon says votes were not counted in overseas territory. I'm ahead with 26 votes. So it's really very, very close.
There are three failures in this. The first failure is that all the way through this campaign, we've been told by the opinion polls that François Fillon was going to win, and by a large majority it was more or less a done thing. This is just a little formality to go through this election process, but it would be François Fillon. So we get to the election, François Fillon doesn't get elected with this massive majority, and we found out probably that he's lost. So that was a mega failure for François Fillon in his election campaign. Now we have this second result where we find that François Fillon may have won, but by a tiny majority. And this is weakened in any case the presidency of Jean-François Copé, because Jean-François Copé can't be if you like a legal president of a party where there's some kind of question over is he the right winner or not? Did he win or was it François Fillon? We don't really know what happened. And the third failure is the failure of the party itself, which is in bits over this, which is the victim of infighting, which is the victim of, as Jean-Marc said, incompetence. And it's giving a terrible image of the party to not only militants, but to everyone in France who might even have been interested in voting for the UMP. The only person who might have come out of this a little bit stronger is the former President Nicolas Sarkozy. We'll probably talk about him in a minute. But my analysis is that there is an injustice in this. I think that they need to recount the votes. It's like if you leave out three areas of France, you forgot to count the Côte d'Azur, the Nord, and the Hérault during a presidential election. Afterwards, they would say, well, we've got to include those votes in the overall tally because it might change something. This time round, Copé is saying, well, no, the result has already been proclaimed. I'm the president. We're not going to change anything. And Fillon is saying, well, we need to examine this and have these results retallied because it might change the overall result. So at the end of the day, it means that he might have had his victory actually stolen from him.
Well, the response from Jean-François Copé is, you want to talk about those places? I also have some ammunition, quote unquote, because I can prove that there was some cheating in other places of France, especially in the area of Nice, where two of the leading lieutenants of François Fillon are based. So they say, okay, you want to put everything on the table, we'll do this. And so this is why, Mathieu Douaret, we could end up before a judge because no one trusts the other. And it's not only I won, but I won too. It's you cheated and you're even worse than anything else.
I think no one can really believe that the decision will finally lie with the judge, just because if a judge was to decide the legal case, in any case, politically, they should have another election, a new election. So in any case, I think the damage is already present, and we all agree, we concur in saying that it's a big damage to the image of the party and in direction in particular of the most important target, which is the voters. And regarding the voters, it's still too early to tell, but what is obvious is that people might be now deterred from voting from this incompetent and cheating party, and turn one's attention to the center and the far right, that is to the new party UDI and to the National Front, which is already saying that they are gathering plenty of new party members, which is probably not that true, but they are clearly now taking it for granted that they will benefit from the current situation, in particular at the next local election.
I want you to answer to something Philippe said earlier. He said it was a failure of Fillon because he was the favorite of the poll. But obviously this calls into question what you are doing, meaning polling people and indicating that François Fillon would win easily.
Yeah, in fact, we never said that we polled the party members. Only the party sympathizers, but each time it's the same because we already had similar issues about the Socialist Party in the past. The reality is that it turns out now to be easier to to predict the outcome of an inner Socialist Party election than of a UMP election, just because it's the first one at the UMP and not the first one at the Socialist Party. And so clearly, I think the party members are not exactly what one would have expected, because the party is changing, and I think it's changing very fast. I think there is something of a generation conflict in it. It's too early to tell, and we don't have enough data, but I think that there is something of a fight between the old school, I would say, embodied by François Fillon, and the new outlook of Jean-François Copé. And if you look at the results in terms of what they call the motion, the platforms, you can the manifestos, you can see that the manifesto which ended first, it was not necessarily the one would have expected either. And so there are plenty of surprises ahead in terms of party life. But the problem is, I'm not sure the party is a faithful reflection of the electorate, and they will have to and the Socialist Party has got used to this tension, but I think it's new for the Conservative Party. They will have to manage this. There is a difference between the party and the voters, and this is clearly something new that did not exist at the time of Jacques Chirac's RPR, for example.
Jean-Marc Gonin, your paper, or you're from the Figaro magazine, but there was a very
the same editor.
Exactly, the same editor, and he penned an editorial this morning. The Figaro is generally a strong backer of the conservative, let's put it this way, and this maybe reflect what some grassroots militants feel. I'm just going to read some words. What a shame, what a waste. Did all those people who got those perks forgot who they owe it to? Basically, the militants, and politics is also to fight for one's idea and one's country. So clearly a lot of anger coming probably from the people who usually vote and support the Conservatives.
Yes, indeed. He's trying to be the voice of course, of our readers, of the supporters of the Conservative camp in this country, and of the basic militants of this party, saying that this is a waste of time, this is a waste and this is a division that was not needed. But there's more to that. I mean, he's worried in a moment where the socialist president is in dire straits. The government has difficulties, internal contradictions, enormous problems in the country, deficits, unemployment, etc. I won't give the exhaustive list, but we would need a strong opposition speaking with one voice, and there's a field now to reconquer power, and that's the very moment where the opposition is in bits and pieces. And so he's producing that sort of impression. And getting back on what Mathieu was saying right now, you can also feel that there's a big gap between the electorate and, because the polls were obviously people who are used to vote for this party, and who is inside the party working for the future. And there's a big gap that has to be bridged. And the problem that we are seeing now between these two leaders might be also the consequence of what's playing, or that gap between voters and people who are working for the future of the opposition.
The problem is, I think, that if you look back in time at what has happened to other political movements, if you look back at 2008 in the Socialist Party, they had a leadership contest, and it was only a very ugly one where they had Ségolène Royal facing Martine Aubry, and that was also disputed. At the end of the day, Ségolène Royal withdrew, and it was only a contest.
But she still thinks she was cheated.
But she still says she was cheated, but she withdrew to stop this kind of fracas that we're seeing now within the UMP. It was only militants who voted in that poll. And when we had the primaries for the presidential election earlier this year, the Socialist Party decided to try to avoid a similar situation by opening it up to anybody who wanted to take part in that vote to pick the candidate for the presidential election, which was, of course, as we know, François Hollande, who was picked and who won the election. Something that the UMP hasn't done this time round. It's gone back to the system of getting only militants to vote. So there's no way that the opinion polls, who don't just do a poll over the militants, but over everybody, could have known really what was going to happen, because the general feeling was that most sympathisers with the right preferred François Hollande, François Fillon, who incarnates the sort of centre right of the party, much of the old guard, over Jean-François Copé, who is more to the right of the party, is trying to seduce the people who would eventually vote for the National Front, which has made a lot of people feel uneasy. But that seems to be more of where the younger militant base seems to want to move now, and that's why we've got this split between the old guard, as we were just hearing, and the new younger generation who are more keen on trying to seduce the voters from the National Front, which means we've really got two different parties creating within one party. So it's been interesting to see now whether, as some people are predicting, there's going to be a split, or as others are saying, no, they're going to have to work together, but it's going to be very difficult to find an easy solution.
Right. We'll take a short break and we'll actually discuss beyond this ugly fight what it means in terms of the Conservative Party, its ideology, and its potential future alliances in part 2 of Politics. Stay tuned.